Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to welcome back to my new welcome back to my new welcome back to my YouTube channel. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Elle, and honestly it has been a hot minute since I last posted, but moving forward I don't plan to leave such a gap between posts. But honestly, my mind has just not been in the mood to post. I don't know what it is. I've just not had that creative spark or that sort of desire to post, and I don't want to just put out for the sake of putting something out when I'm not really happy with it. But we are back, and we are back with an update because I have just ran my first ever half marathon after saying I would never ever run a half marathon. So I'm super happy with that. I did it. I got the time that I wanted. So I'm happy with that, and I'll go on to that a little bit later. But honestly, I also want to talk today a little bit about my running journey from someone who always claimed I hated running, I was a bad runner, a slow runner, I just didn't enjoy it, to now actually sticking with it for, it's been 6 months now, so it's not been the longest time, but it's been the longest which I have consistently stuck with it. And from running from like 5k to now being able to run a 26.1k, not 26, a 21.1k. My half marathon is honestly, it's wild to me. So we're going to talk through everything in this video today. I'm going to talk through where I started, how I got into it, what it is that I have learned since I've done it previously, and everything like that. So if we flip back to when I first started running, it was probably in the very first lockdown, which I started doing it more consistently. I've sort of dabbled in it previously, like when I was younger, so growing up when I was like in late high school, early college, throughout uni a little bit, but I didn't really stick with it consistently until 2020 when that was lockdown. If I look back at my runs then, they were actually quicker than what I am doing now. But I know when I was doing it during lockdown, my main goal for running was purely for speed. So I'd only ever run between like 1 kilometer and 5 kilometers religiously throughout the week. I was running like 3 times a week, but it was never a long distance in terms of like what I would see as long distance now. Obviously 5k is still an achievement, but I was just doing it purely for speed, and every single time I was trying to get a new PR in my 5k. So that made me really not enjoy the sport of it that much, because honestly, if you know running, you know that it's not consistent each week. Like, you can have one day where it'll feel amazing and you'll have another day where it just absolutely sucks, and 5k feels like 50k. Whereas the week before, 5k could have felt like an absolute breeze. So I think when I was training purely for speed and PRs, I just really didn't enjoy it. It sucked the fun out of it. And then I was getting injuries a lot because my form probably was, well, it definitely wasn't great. And my footwear that I was wearing was not footwear for me, but I'll go into that again a little bit later. But long story short, my main focus when I was in lockdown was just to get faster. I always said that I was never able to run more than 5k. I think I ran 7k maybe once or twice during that phase, and then I did one 10k, and I said never again would I run that 10k because my knees hurt, my hips hurt, and I just didn't enjoy it because it felt slow, and I was in a period where I was just like fast, 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 just to get that sort of runner's high of feeling like I'd hit a PR. And since then, so that was 2020, I stopped once the gyms reopened and I was actually able to go back into the gym and do what I love, which was gym training at the time. So I went back into the gym and just forgot all about running, forgot it existed. And I did a few park runs a few years later with my friend. And again, I didn't stick with that at all. That was more, again, just trying to get 5k PRs. But after not running for a while, even 1k felt horrendous. I remember I was in the park run and I had to stop at like 2.5k. I just literally quit out of it. I was like, I didn't finish it because it just felt horrible. I was not running ages, but I hadn't run in a while, but I automatically thought I could just do a 5k because that's what I was so used to. But coming out of a long block of not training, honestly, it humbles you. So that was pretty much my early stages of getting into running, was just a few park runs and just mostly 3 to 5Ks, whether it was an intentional 3K or because I couldn't finish the 5K. that's a different story, but that is pretty much is the distances which I went through. And then fast forward to 2024, again, I started getting a little bit more consistent with my running and just doing some park runs again. Nothing major, nothing more than 5K. It wasn't until January of 2025, so this year, where I actually decided that I was going to... I actually don't even think it wasn't January. I think it was actually March of this year where I did my first 10K after, I remember so vividly, my friend was telling me that she was training for her first or second half marathon at the time, and she was like, no, you can do 10K. Like, my boyfriend was saying, like, no, you can do it, it's more mental, you can definitely do 10K, because I'd done a few 5s and 7s in January and February, and March came and I was like, no, I cannot physically do a 10K. Like, I've never been able to do a 10K. I've done one once in my life and it was the worst thing ever. So I had such a bad mindset around sort of that distance and being slow and not being good and it just feeling bad, that I'd always just labelled myself as a bad runner and that I couldn't do any distances further than like a 7. But we did that 10K and it wasn't the fastest 10K in the world. Like, I think it was a pace of like 7:30 maybe, but I did it and that was major for me. That was sort of the trigger which made me think, no, you know what, I actually can do this. If I put my mind to it, I can actually do this. And that was when the flip sort of switched from training purely for speed to training actually for that sense of achievement of something which I could actually then push towards and actually doing something which I never thought I would be able to do. So we did a few more 10Ks. Again, the speed wasn't incredible, but they felt easier. So that second 10K I did felt better than the first 10K I did. The third one felt better than the second one, and it just got a little bit better each time I did it. And the more consistently I did it, but still at this point I was only running once per week, so that was just like a weekend run with my friend. And again, a half marathon was not even in my sort of mind frame at that point. So it wasn't until, I think it's April, or it was the end of April or early May, when it was the London Marathon and the Manchester Marathon, and my Instagram was absolutely inundated. The runners high, everyone doing the marathons, everyone like celebrating, everyone just having that pure sense of achievement, and just my Instagram was just flooded with it, and it got me so inspired. That was literally the trigger. I think the Sunday of the London Marathon, I then signed up to the Manchester Half Marathon, which was October 12th. So I gave myself a long time to train for it. I wanted to make sure I was picking something which was a long way in the distance, so that I knew I had that time to train for it, considering that I was always so adamant that I could never even do 10K. I wanted to make sure I had the time and the proper amount of time to be able to train for a half marathon. I know some people train for it in 12 weeks, 8 weeks, but I want to make sure I had enough time to make sure I was confident doing it, because I know it is such a mindset game. If you've ever ran, you'll know it's so much in the mind. Obviously, it's a physical aspect of it, and I felt that physical aspect in this half marathon, but more so it is in your head. So I think that was my main thing, was just making sure I had enough time to train for it properly, so I would actually enjoy it on the day and not feel like it was the worst thing in the world. So rewind back to May 2025, that's when I started properly training with a plan. So I downloaded the Runner app, and honestly, this is not sponsored or anything, even though I would happily take a sponsor by them, because honestly, I swear by this app. So I started my half marathon plan with Runner, which was a 23-week program, which again, it's quite long for a half marathon plan, but I just wanted that time and I wanted the security of having that time. So I started with Runner back in May, and I just did twice a week on Run. So I'd have one long run on a weekend, and then I'd do one shorter run during the week, which was either like a tempo, an easy run, or like an interval. So Runner sort of does all that for you. It plans it out to the T, and just having something to check off each week makes a difference for me as well. So it's the accountability side of things. But yeah, I swear by that app. I recommend the app to anyone. I love it so much. Again, not sponsored, but if it was, I'd happily take it. So yeah, May 2025, I got my first ever running program. Twice a week I was training, and it was just gradually increasing on the mileage as the weeks went on. And this is when I also invested in my first pair of running shoes. So I got the Saucony I got the Saucony's, apologies if I'm saying that name wrong, but I got the Saucony Hurricane 24s back in May, and I went to get my running gait tested at a running shop near me, so that is when I figured out that I needed a stability shoe because I overpronated, which is probably why I kept getting injuries the first time around in 2020 when I was just running in any old shoes. So that is probably why I was getting shin splints, knee pain, hip pain, because I wasn't running in the proper footwear. I love my Hurricane 24s, so they have been well, I've not actually had any other shoe on rotation other than that one. I'm actually about to get my second pair of shoes, more for intervals and tempo runs, but that one pair of shoes got me through my entire half marathon block, and I don't feel like I needed a second pair. You don't really need a second pair of shoes, in my opinion, if you're just getting started, but I've now got a second half marathon in the books, and I really want to improve my time on that one, so I am going to invest in some new shoes very soon. But yeah, for that first half marathon, I just wore the same Saucony Hurricanes 24s throughout all my training, whether that was a long run, short run, easy run, and I wore them in the half marathon as well, and I had no issues with them at all. So yeah, I will find them somewhere and I'll put them either on screen or I'll go get them at some point. But those are the shoes I wore, and then that is pretty much from May until October. I was running twice a week, increasing in the mileage, and my 10k time I've now got down to about 60 minutes, which is a massive improvement considering I started off in March doing a 1 hour 10k, so that was about a 7-minute 30 per kilometre, and now I'm doing about just over 6 minutes per kilometre, but I do actually think I could probably get sub 60 if I tried. I've just not tried for it yet. And also, speaking of that, I did a 5k time trial which was programmed into my runner back in August, and I got 26 minutes 40, which is my fastest ever 5k time, and I've not even been training for 5ks. So it just goes to show, when you don't train for speed and you actually focus on the long runs and the tempo runs and the intervals, you actually naturally get faster without having to burn yourself out every single time you try. So if we move to the actual half marathon itself, I set myself a time of 2:15 going into it, and I think I probably shouldn't have gone into the half marathon itself with a time goal, just so, because obviously anything you do on the half marathon day, if it's your first half marathon, it is going to be a PR regardless of what you get. So whether I got 2 hours, 2:15, 2:30, 2:45, it would have been a PR because it's something I've never done before. It's my first half marathon, so whatever you do, it's going to be a PR on the half marathon day. So, and I think it just takes the stress off a little bit when you're doing it, and just makes you enjoy the day a little bit more. So that is something I wish I hadn't really put pressure on myself for, because literally the week leading up to it, I was on my phone, on TikTok, on everything, Googling how to make sure I maintain pace, what specific time do I need to achieve X amount. And I think I was just getting in my head a little bit too much about hitting a speed as opposed to just enjoying the day itself. And honestly, it's an achievement itself being able to run a half marathon. I think I saw a statistic saying that 4% of people run a half marathon, or maybe it might have been 3% of people. I think it was 3% of people run a half marathon, but only 0.4% of people finish it. So the fact that I was actually able to finish it itself is a major achievement. And yes, I did hit my time, which I'm super happy about. But I think going into it, my top tip would be just to not go in purely focus on hitting that time. Focus on actually just finishing the event and enjoying the day itself, because it is such an experience. I think my worst bit of the entire day was when I got to kilometre 14. I was hitting such a good pace throughout the entirety of the first half of the run. So I was actually probably too fast for what I needed to be. So I was running at a 6:06 pace, which was the fastest which I have ever done. I think the environment just sort of spurred me a little bit, and I got really in the zone. But then 14 kilometres to 19 kilometres went really downhill for me. It was honestly such a mental battle for me at that point. I hit such a wall, and I've ran 18 before the actual half marathon, so I have ran past 14, but as soon as I hit that 14 kilometers, literally it was such a wall. I wanted to stop so much. Manchester is quite a flat route, but there's some slight hills on there, and I think once we got past the 14k, hills started coming, and I was just in such a negative mind space where I was with running, because it felt hard, which it should do. It's a long distance, but it just didn't feel like it had done on training. My legs were so heavy and I just wanted to quit so bad. I think that was the biggest mental challenge for me, which I've had whilst running, was just purely that 14 to 19k, that 5 kilometers. Honestly, it was an absolute drag. Like, I wanted to stop so many times, but I just kept telling myself, you've trained for this, you can do it. You've done 18k before, it's only an extra 3 from there, and you know that you'll regret it more if you don't do it. So just push through. Even if you don't hit your time, just push through, keep going. And I think that was the main thing, was just me telling myself and having a word with myself and just being like, no, you can do this. You've done it before. Well, you've not done it before, you've done close before. Like, you are more capable than what you think you are. Yes, my legs were starting to fatigue so much, but whether it was a placebo or not, but I had my gels and we just got through it. And then the final 2 kilometers was just literally just in the zone, off we go. And then that was pretty much how my half marathon went. I did hit my time. I got 2:13, so I hit under my target, which I'm super happy. Moving forward, my plans are to now, I'm training for my second half marathon, but I'm going to give that a little bit of a break in terms of the long distances and just putting pressure on making sure I hit them. I'm going to go for a little bit of a recovery period where I'm just going to focus on just getting out, enjoying it a little bit more, because I came out of the half marathon on the Sunday and I was like, no, this is just not for me. And then I booked a second one, but the aim for that is going to be a sub 2, but that is not till another year's time. So we've got loads of time to train for that. I'm just going to take the foot off the gas a little bit at the moment and just focus on getting back into running just for the sake of running, with no specific goal in mind. And then next year we can then come back to the half marathon plan. But right now, I think my main things for how I went from pretty much just training for like 3 to 5k to being able to run 21.1k is just my mindset around the whole thing. So I was running faster back in 2020. So if you look at my stats, it looks like I've regressed. But in terms of how I feel about it, I'm definitely in a better headspace about it. So my mindset around running is so much better. I don't just run for fat loss. I don't just run to hit a certain time. I'm actually now just running for performance-based goals and just to prove to myself that I can actually do it. And that I always sort of rolled my eyes when I saw people say that running was such like a mental, like a mindset clearing thing. I was like, no, it's not. It's just like, you run to be fast. You run to lose fat. Whereas now I'm in such a different headspace. I run because I like that achievement of being able to do something which I didn't think I would. And I like that feeling you get after a run. I can't even just it's just such a good feeling knowing that you've done something. And yes, some runs feel absolutely disgusting and you feel like, why does this feel so bad? But once you do it and once you do, it's just, you're working on achieving something which you didn't think you'd be able to do. So that is pretty much the ins and outs of how I went from running, from hating running, like absolutely hating running. I would tell anyone that I hate running, I'm a bad runner. I would never consider running as a hobby, to now having running as my main hobby and pretty much my only hobby other than going to coffee shops, to sign up for my second half marathon next year. And I'm probably going to do a few races in between and actually enjoy them and look forward to them and look forward to the training. And I'm actually going to increase my runs after this recovery block too. So yeah, I'm actually super excited for what's to come with running and just the running community itself on Instagram, on TikTok, on here. I just love seeing everyone's running content. So I think now that I'm actually enjoying it and I'm actually seeing progress and I'm actually not putting so much pressure on myself, that is the biggest game changer for me. So hopefully you can resonate with this video a little bit and hopefully you find some inspiration maybe from it in terms of starting your own running journey and just getting into it. If you also came from hating running or just feeling like you're not a good runner or that you're a slow runner or you're looking to do your first half marathon but don't really think you can, then trust me, you can do it. It's definitely something which I always told myself I couldn't do, but here we are 6 months later with a medal to show that I actually can do it. So hopefully you like this video, and I'm also thinking I'm going to do a running favourites which I've had for these past 6 months since I've been doing half marathon training, and then also I'm probably going to do a full week of workouts with my running involved as well, because my training's completely changed. Well, not completely changed, but my schedule has changed since I last posted my full week of workouts, because I'm now running more. I'm training in the gym less, but I'm definitely still training because that is so, so important. I don't think I'll ever not go to the gym, because it was my first love and my first passion when it comes to fitness. So we're training, but we're also running, and I'm probably going to go through a full week of workouts at one point, hopefully in the near future, alongside some of my favourites when it comes to running and my running essentials. So if you're interested in seeing any of that, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this a like, or just comment what sort of running content you'd like to see, because I'm always open to ideas when it comes to content, especially considering I've had such a slog with my content in terms of feel I'm not inspired or not really knowing what to post. So any ideas, let me know in the comments and I will hopefully be able to fill them for you. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.